There is a question that arrives in every gym at some point, usually from a well-meaning friend or a concerned family member. Why do you always go alone? It is asked the way people ask about eating dinner at a restaurant by yourself, with a small apology inside the question, an assumption that solitude is something that happened to you, rather than something you chose. And if you have ever tried to answer honestly, you know the answer never lands. You say you prefer it, and they hear you gave up. You say it works better, and they hear you could not find a partner. Here is what nobody tells you, and what the psychology has quietly been documenting for decades. Some people are not tolerating their solitude. They are optimized for it. And for those people, the gym at 5 in the morning, alone, is not the consolation prize of a social life. It is the exact environment their nervous system was built to perform in. Today we break down why some people are meant to train alone, what the research on solitude and personality actually says, what happens in a nervous system when the social monitoring finally switches off, and how to tell whether you are one of them or just one of the people who has not admitted they need a spotter yet. The answer matters because the wrong configuration is expensive. The stage mind training alone is paying for emptiness it does not want, and the darkroom mind training in the crowd is paying for noise it cannot use. And both of them keep buying because the culture only prints one membership. Start with a distinction: the culture keeps collapsing. Loneliness and solitude are not opposites of the same coin. They are different states with different chemistry. Loneliness is unwanted absence, and its health effects are documented with the gravity of a smoking habit. Solitude is chosen presence with yourself, and the research on it, particularly the work on constructive solitude, describes something the alarmist headlines skip. For a subset of people, time alone is not a stressor. It is where the nervous system finally downshifts, where the social monitoring switches off, and where the recovery systems that chronic social arousal suppress are allowed to run. The gym, for these people, is not exercise with people around. It is the one reliable hour where no one is asking anything, and the body can finally hear itself. The researchers studying solitude use a phrase that deserves wider currency. They distinguish between solitude that depletes and solitude that restores, and the dividing line is not the amount of aloneness. It is the fit between the person and the aloneness. Put a stage mind in an empty gym, and you will watch the energy drain out of the session in real time. Put a darkroom mind in that same emptiness and watch the focus arrive like weather. The same room is medicine for one and loneliness for the other, and the entire tragedy of gym culture is that it sells one room to both kinds of mind and then grades them on a curve written by the stage. Here is the analogy. Some minds are wired like a stage, energized by the audience, sharper with every pair of eyes. Other minds are wired like a darkroom, where the image only develops when the lights go out, and every flicker of social attention fogs the film. Neither wiring is superior. But a darkroom mind that spends its life on a stage does not become a stage mind. It becomes a badly used darkroom, and the gym alone is where it finally develops the picture. Spend a month watching both types in the wild, and the difference becomes unmistakable. The stage mind warms up facing the room, rests facing the room, times his sets to the energy of the floor. The darkroom mind finds the corner rack, angles away from the mirrors at first, and settles into a rhythm that has nothing to do with anyone else's heartbeat. Same gym, same hour, two completely different operating systems, and the training industry, which sells one operating manual, has quietly failed both of them for 50 years. Now, the 3 reasons some people are meant to train alone. 1. The arousal budget. Personality psychology, back to the foundational work of Hans Eysenck on introversion, proposed that introverts run at a higher baseline of cortical arousal, which means the social world, a noisy gym, a chatty partner, a class, adds stimulation on top of an already busy system, and performance and comfort both degrade. The extrovert is running understimulated, and the gym crowd is fuel. The introvert is running near capacity, and the crowd is static. Training alone is not a preference for the introvert. It is load management for a nervous system that came from the factory with a lower ceiling for input, and respecting that ceiling is the difference between a session that compounds and a session that drains. Eysenck's original framework has been refined for decades, and the modern versions keep the core insight. Arousal is not character, it is hardware, distributed on a spectrum, settled long before the first gym membership, and no amount of push-yourself culture rewrites the distribution. The introvert who forces the group class experience is not expanding his comfort zone in a way that compounds. He is paying an arousal tax on every session, and the tax is deducted from the training. The choice to train alone, for him, is not avoidance. It is the same engineering decision a racer makes when he matches the fuel to the engine. 2. the internal reference frame. In the earlier breakdown, we talked about calibration, the lifter who measures against his logbook instead of the room. Some people are simply built to find the internal reference more rewarding than the external one. The research on motivation, particularly self-determination theory, distinguishes between introjected motivation, where you move to avoid guilt or win approval, and identified motivation, where you move because the goal is genuinely yours. Solo training over years forces the development of the identified kind, because there is no audience to perform for, and the only reason to finish the set is the set itself. This is the argument the group fitness industry cannot answer honestly. The energy of the class is real, and it works. And it works by lending you motivation that was manufactured externally. The question the loan agreement never states is what happens when the class is full and the instructor leaves and the schedule changes, which is to say, what happens to a body whose entire motivational economy was imported? The solo lifter manufactured his own fuel from the beginning, inefficiently at first, expensively at first, and then with an efficiency that never expires, because the factory is inside the building he lives in, and factories that are inside you cannot be closed by a schedule change, a cancellation, or the retirement of the only instructor whose playlist you could tolerate. The darkroom simply keeps developing. In any gym, in any city, in any decade of the long life it was built for, the solo lifter is not braver than the social one. He has simply been running the harder, purer motivation protocol for years, and the compounding shows up everywhere else in his life. Think about what a training partner actually provides, and be honest about the ledger. Spotting, yes. Feedback, sometimes. But mostly, accountability, the borrowed spine on the days yours is soft. The social lifter leases his discipline. The solo lifter owns it, and ownership is more expensive up front and cheaper forever. After a decade, the solo lifter arrives at heavy life events, job loss, grief, moves, with a self that already knows how to make itself do things, with no witnesses and no applause. The training partner cannot be there for the funeral. The internal reference can, because it was built there, in the quiet, under the bar, on the days nobody knew he went. 3. The identity forge. We keep returning to exercise identity, from Anderson and Psychos, because it keeps being the mechanism. Identity consolidates in private, in the sessions no one witnesses, where the evidence accumulates between you and you. The social lifter gets identity feedback from the outside, the partner who noticed, the group that clapped. Remove the group and the identity wobbles, which is why gym friendships end, and training often ends with them. The solo lifter built the identity with no external scaffolding, which makes it weatherproof. Injuries, moves, pandemics, decades. The person forged in solitude does not need the building to be a person who trains. The trait is the portability, and portability is the entire long game. Watch what happens to gym populations during a disruption, a closure, a move, an injury. The social exercisers scatter, because their habit lived partly in other people, and when the people were removed, the habit lost a load-bearing wall. The solo trainers convert, within a week, to push-ups in the living room, to a bar in a doorway, to long walks with weight, because the habit never lived in the building or the audience. It lived in the transaction between the self, and that transaction is the most relocatable facility on earth. The gym will close again someday, and the schedule will betray you again someday, and the body that knows how to train alone will simply walk into the next room and begin, because that is what portable means, and portable is what the quiet ones were building all along. While everyone else was building a relationship with a building, and buildings, whatever their merits, have opening hours, and staff, and schedules, and a version of your membership that expires the day the accountability does, which is the whole argument, quietly, in one clause. Now the honest caveat, because this channel does not sell comfort. Training alone is meant for some people the way a violin is meant for some people, which is to say, the wiring helps, but it does not excuse you from the basics. The solo lifter still needs spotters on the true maximums, still benefits from occasional coaching eyes, and still lives inside the research showing that social connection predicts long-term health with stubborn consistency. Meant to train alone does not mean meant to be alone. It means the training hour is your darkroom, and the other 23 hours are still, and always, a social project. The strongest version of this life is the one where the solitude is chosen, and the loneliness is not, and the two are separated by a border so thin the culture keeps paving over it. The loner who is thriving chose the room. The loner who is drowning had the room chosen for him by avoidance, and the gym will not fix that, because the gym is not a social intervention. It is a place where you pick things up and put them down, and the picking up was never the therapy. The therapy is the honesty about which room you are in, and the honesty is available at any hour, in any gym, alone or not, to anyone brave enough to ask the question, instead of wearing the answer as an identity. So how do you know which you are? Ask what you feel on the walk from the car. The person meant to train alone feels the tension dropping with every step toward the door, the way a diver feels the surface approaching. The person who needs a partner feels the energy sag when they confirm nobody is coming. Neither feeling is a flaw. They are fuel gauges, and the entire art of a long training life is reading them honestly and building the schedule they point toward. The final tell is the walk back to the car. The person meant to train alone finishes the session full, and the solitude carries him through the day like a battery. The person who needs the crew finishes the session lighter than the work should account for, and cannot name why. The body keeps the score on the social configuration as faithfully as it keeps it on the load, and the score is legible to anyone willing to read it without the culture narrating over the top. Ask the question, run the experiment, 1 month solo, 1 month partnered, and let the logbook and the mood settle the argument the memes cannot. Which are you, the darkroom or the stage? Tell me in the comments and be specific, because I read them, and if you recognize someone in this, the friend who never misses and never asks anyone to come, send it to them. They will not say much. They never do. They will send back a single thumbs up at an hour that tells you they were already awake, and that will be the entire conversation, and it will have been a better conversation than most. Hit like if this landed, and subscribe for the next breakdown. Goodbye and see you next time.